Good morning, and welcome to Changing the World with God and with Good, where for about 5 or 10 minutes or so I get to share with you God's simple truths for humanity, sharing with you universal truths, universal kingdom characteristics that are meant to apply to all of humanity, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever your particular affiliation, whether that be religious affiliation, ethnic affiliation, political affiliation, or national affiliation. The words that I speak to you are words from our Father, who happens to be the creator of all humanity, and the words that he sends to humanity are meant for all of humanity. This is why I'm able to share those words with you without religious bias, without ethnic bias, without national bias, or without gender bias. And again, that's because God's truths transcend our self-imposed human labels. And for just a moment, I want to talk from the subject, seeing it the right way. Seeing it, S-E-E-I-N-G, it the right way. And I want to speak from this particular subject because it came to me in a dream. And in the dream, I had preached an entire sermon, this entire sermon. And though it will be probably vastly different than it came to me in my dream, the content and the message of the dream and what I will share to you will be eerily similar. And again, I didn't have a name for the particular message. It just came to me as I slept. And what came to me that I would like to share with you is the fact that I believe that many of us see things not the way that God intended for us to see them. I believe that many of us fail to see things that God sends to us, expecting them to be used as a challenge. And instead of seeing them as God challenging us to do, be, say, or move in a different direction, what we perceive those things that comes our way, we see them as problems. I know I'm talking to somebody, if I'm not talking to anybody but myself, because I'm guilty as well. God has sent a situation into our lives, and he's sending that thing into our lives to challenge us. One, maybe to think different, to have different thoughts, to have different perceptions. He sends it for us to change the words that we use. He sends situations that are intended to be challenges unto us so that we might change some of our actions, change even our company and those that we interact and deal with, whether in a business relationship, romantic relationship, or some type of family relationship. But what often happens, and again I'm guilty, is those situations that God send our way, instead of seeing them as something that he's sending to challenge us, we begin to see them as problems. And what happens is we end up suffering in the situation a lot longer than God intended for us to suffer. Because again, and I'm guessing I'm not the only one, but people deal with, address, and perceive things different when we're thinking about them from the perspective of them being a challenge versus them being a problem. You see, challenges causes us to look inward. Okay, you're challenging me to do something. You're challenging me to think something. You're challenging me to go somewhere. You're almost saying that you don't believe that I can do it. Challenges they are internal, but when you start talking about problems, 9 times out of 10, when we think about problems, we're thinking about someone else. He's the problem. She's the problem. They don't understand. They neglect me. They overlook me. They're the problem. But a challenge causes us to look inward. And God, what are you challenging me to do? So you see, when it's a problem, and I'll show you the difference. When it's a challenge, you think, what can I do to improve this situation, to move this mountain out of my way? But when it's a problem, you become consumed with winning the argument. When it's a challenge, you can work together because we're being challenged to overcome this situation. But when it's a problem, then he's the problem, she's the problem, the job is the problem, this is the problem. But again, and when we address and deal with situations as problems, then what happens is we wind up suffering longer because we're looking at a problem instead of allowing what God is sending to us to challenge us. I mean, what are you dealing with today? Are you willing to look internally and ask yourself, okay, well, let me see what God is expecting me. What is God challenging me to do? Is he challenging me to think something different than what I'm accustomed to thinking? Is he challenging me to just completely change my way of thinking? Is he challenging me to begin using different words in my interactions with others? What are you challenging me to do, Father? Instead of, woe is me, because see, again, when it's a problem, you become the victim. When it's a challenge, you become the one that's empowered to overcome the challenge. What has God sent your way that you perceived as a problem when in actuality it was a challenge? He was just challenging you to rise above. To rise above. What have you been stuck dealing with because all you could see is that it was a problem instead of recognizing that it was a challenge for you to become better, for you to think like God, for you to walk like God, for you to talk like God? What? Are you willing to see things the right way? Are you willing to see them God way? And again, you can begin by asking yourself, in whatever situation is in front of you, whatever situation you're dealing with, whether it's on your job, whether it's in your home, whether it's with your mate, whether it's with your kids, whatever, ask yourself, what am I being challenged to think about this situation? Pray about it. Ask God. He'll speak. What are you challenging me to? How are you challenging me? What are you asking me to think about this that maybe I'm not thinking about? As opposed to pointing a finger at someone else, accusing them of being the problem. Ask yourself, Father, what are you challenging me to? You're challenging me to begin speaking different words in this situation. What do you want me to say in this situation? Because I recognize that it may not be a problem. It may just be a situation where you're challenging me to move beyond. Again, you've got to understand that life is growth, and God expects us to grow from faith to faith, from experience to experience, from level to level. So then you have to, if I'm being challenged, you've got to go to the source. God has the answer. And ask God, okay, I can recognize that it's a challenge. Now I've got to ask myself, what am I supposed to do? Where am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to think? How am I supposed to act to overcome this challenge, to defeat the challenge, to rise above the challenge, to win the challenge? See, and when you can begin seeing things as a challenge instead of a problem, you can begin to grow, because I'm a firm believer that real and lasting change can only come inside out. Well, when it's a challenge, it's about you. You change. You're the one that's being challenged to become better, to do more, to be more, to see things different, to speak different words, to engage people in a different manner. Are you willing to take the challenge? Are you content with blaming everybody else? Are you content with not being willing to look inward where real change occurs? This is the question. This is the question that we all must answer. Because we can either continually suffer or we can begin seeing situations as God's way of challenging us. And all that does is it empowers us. You know how it is when you see two football teams challenging one another. What happens is this person recognizes that this person is challenging them, which makes them rise a little bit higher, play a little bit harder, compete, run a little bit faster, think a different way than what they would have done had they not saw it as competition, had they not saw it as a challenge. Well, God is not, opposed to challenging us, because he wants us to rise above. So then again, I ask you, will you take whatever situation you're dealing with today and flip it from seeing it as a problem to seeing it as a challenge? Well, I challenge you. I challenge you today to begin seeing your situation the right way. See it the right way. And I can guarantee that what was once a problem will begin to disappear, and you will look back and ask yourself, why didn't I do this a long time ago? We won't look in the past, but we'll be able to celebrate that we're not the same people that we once were, because we don't allow ourselves to see situations as problems, but as challenges that causes us to rise above. I love you. I thank you for tuning in. And until next time, goodbye.